Democrats claim to be for helping Doge reduce the size of government. I don't believe them. I'll ask you guys what you think after this clip. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. As we go into just what is going to happen to the giant, unelected, bureaucratic state. None of us voted for these people, and these people control a ton of our lives.
I think what people don't understand is like just how broken the government bureaucracies and regulations are, right? It's not like they're kind of sort of bad.
We have no idea how broken the government is. That's the All In podcast, by the way. That's Sachs. That guy isn't Sachs, but the guy on the podcast is Sachs, who's in charge of crypto and AI czar appointed by Trump. So these guys kind of have an inside knowledge. This guy is one of the big investors in Palantir. A buddy of Elon Musk's, goes way back.
It's almost like they're companies that went bankrupt. Like think of the worst company you know in Silicon Valley that went bankrupt like 30 years ago. And imagine if someone just like kept pumping money into that worst company you know over like 30 years to keep hiring people.
That's what the government is. It's been protected from market forces. That is the normal things that takes a business out if it's inefficient. Normally it just goes out of business, but your government it's protected itself from those forces. Here's a picture of Elon Musk with his son, and there's Mike Johnson and Vivek Ramaswamy walking through Washington. They're meeting with all of our senators and all of our House reps about where they can easily cut a ton of government agencies.
We've always been advocates of limited government and individual freedom. And so here we have what I think, Martha, is a generational opportunity to make real transformational change to the administrative state, the deep state.
You've got one shot. That was the Trump win. Now, the Democrats, there's going to be resistance. There always is. But the Democrats are starting to get involved now and go, we want to be involved too. And really, I always wonder if they really just want to put a bunch of blocking in to keep the Republicans from being able to do what they need to do. It's going to take bipartisan agreement, though, because Doge is just an appointment. They don't have the actual power to fire anyone. It's our other branch of government that actually holds the purse strings.
It was failing and take the worst department there. And then like the worst department gets the most money. So it's like, and I think one of the important things is America used to have these really hard tests for 100 years. You know this? In 1883, we said, you know what? We shouldn't just hire our friends. If someone's going to run something in government, let's have these tough tests. Kind of like, and for 100 years, we had really hard tests. When we went to the moon, when we fought the world wars, when we did the Manhattan Project, the people making those decisions in hiring people had to pass things that really only like 5-10% of people could pass who took them.
If you ever saw the movie Oppenheimer that goes into the Manhattan Project of building the nuclear bomb, Oppenheimer himself was a complete lunatic. It shows how they hired someone because he was a genius. And he was, by the way, was some kind of a socialist, maybe even a communist, but they hired him because he could do the job, which is not how things are done today in the government.
And then in the late 70s, we said, not only are these tests racist, so we can't test people anymore of any background, we also can't fire people anymore because we're going to give them tons of protections. So so the last 40 years, it just got dumber. And then 10 years ago, you started doing all the virtue signaling and hiring based on your identity versus based on anything else.
This actually puts these guys that are slashing our government ahead of private business, because many private businesses are not slashing Department of Equity and Inclusion and all their hiring that's not based on merit. Disney needs it. Nabisco needs it. Hershey's needs it. Goodyear tires need it. All these companies that went woke, the government might actually get ahead of them on efficiency now because they're still stuck in the last 10 years ago of hiring by skin color and sex.
So it's got even worse. And so now it's so broken that, yes, we're lighting tens of billions of dollars on fire. And so there's really two things here. One, you got to take a chainsaw, as Elon and Vivek said, you got to take a chainsaw and just like cut a ton of broken stuff. But
we want to take a blowtorch to the regulatory state. And I think what Elon and Vivek have in mind can help us in that regard. And so I invited them both to come to the Hill.
Now, Trump already reduced hundreds of regulations back when he won in 2016. It's what he credits his turnaround of the economy. Made it easier to get licenses and to build buildings and to build bridges and all that stuff. But he knows he didn't go deep enough because he didn't have the mandate. Well, now he's got the full mandate to do exactly what he wants. And you're going to see massive slashings of departments. Elon has said they're going to go from like 450 government departments. He wants to get it down to 99, to just under 100. That's 1/4 of the number of departments he's going to cut.
The thing I'm most passionate about is, right now there's over 1 million rules at the federal level. It's stuff that everyone disagrees on. You can be the most left person trying to build like solar or wind or whatever, and you're like, what? I have to do what study over how many years? This makes no sense. So we gotta take these regulations and not only cut them, but we gotta make a data-driven system that forces regulations to defend themselves. And that way, instead of having a cancer that just grows forever out of control, you could actually have a process that like naturally trims things, naturally makes things fight for himself, and that way doesn't get as dumb ever again.
It's about scaling back the regulatory state. I mean, we use the term weaponization. That's what's happened over the last 4 years, that most of these three-letter agencies that are supposed to be serving the people are actually working directly against them and their interest. We have whole industries that have faced existential threats of their very existence because they're literally being smothered with red tape.
If they can pull it off, I believe they can. The guy who actually experienced it firsthand is Elon Musk. He wanted to launch rockets in California. They made him do these long, cruel tests on seals where they had to put headphones on seals and prove that the rocket's blast and sound did not affect their mating patterns. It's ridiculous, of course. And so you got to slash all that.
Also says Democrats get involved with Doge. Watch.
There's going to be other Democrats, I think, that join the caucus. But if there's agreements because, hey, we can find hundreds of billions of dollars to save the American people, we should make that a bipartisan issue.
Oh, the Democrats found Jesus. They know now it's a positive thing to do. Suddenly they're on, we're for cutting the bureaucratic state. We're not for this DEI hiring stuff, where they've wasted hundreds of $millions, for instance, at the Pentagon on DEI hires. This is a positive path forward for America. I'm Doug in Exile.